Welcome back, Wire Monkeys, to another episode of Let's Talk Cabling. In the heart of our interconnected world, where the push and pull of power surges through unseen veins, there lies a hidden alliance. This is not the stuff of superhero comics nor the shadowy domain of international spies. Instead, it's a network of brilliant minds who are collaborating on one single objective, and that's advancing power over Ethernet. And they are known as the PoE Consortium. Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by installers, project managers, estimators, IT personnel, and even customers. On this show, we are connecting at the human level so that we can connect the world. If you're watching this show on YouTube and you like this content, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified when new content is being produced? If you're listening to us on one of the audio podcast platforms like iTunes, Stitchers, Google Play, would you mind leaving us a 5-star rating? And if this show is not a 5-star rated show, let me know what I can do to make this a 5-star rated show. Both of these steps helps us take on the algorithm so we can get this message out to more people so we can help educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of people in the ICT industry. Thursday nights, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What are you doing? We do a live stream on LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, where you get to ask your favorite RCDD questions on cable design, installation, certification, estimation, project management, even career path. But I can hear you now, but Chuck, I'm driving my truck home at 6 p.m. on Friday, Thursdays. I'll get in an accident. I don't want to lose my job. That's okay. They're recorded, and you can watch them at your convenience when it's safe for you to do so. This content is free and will always remain free. But if you would like to help support this show, would you mind clicking on the QR code right there? You can buy me a cup of coffee. You can schedule a 15-minute one-on-one Zoom call with me after hours, of course. And finally, we're always looking for corporate sponsorship. So if your company has a similar message as educating, encouraging, and enriching the lives of people in the ICT industry, reach out to me on one of my social media platforms and let's talk about maybe becoming a corporate sponsor of Let's Talk Cabling. Now, before we get into this week's topic, I want to ask for your help. Addiction has impacted many families in our society, including mine. It's past time for us to do something about addiction. I'm thrilled to share a message of hope. Join me in Loving Hands Ministry for our first annual Save Our Sons Walkathon. Your donation can help support the lives of people battling addiction, giving them a chance for a brighter future. Let's walk side by side, step by step, towards this healing and recovery. Here's 4 reasons why you might want to give to this ministry, if you need reasons. Donating to the Loving Hands Ministry provides crucial support to men battling addiction, offering them a lifeline of hope and healing in their darkest moments. Another one, your contribution to the Loving Hands Ministry directly funds recovery programs, allowing these men to have access to professional treatment and counseling services to help their long-term recovery. Another one, by supporting the Loving Hands Ministry, you become an essential part of a compassionate community that surrounds and uplifts men on their journey to sobriety, showing them that they are not alone in this struggle. And then finally, your generous donation to Loving Hands Ministry is not only going to transform the lives of those battling addiction, but also helps build a stronger and healthier society by reducing the devastating impact of substance abuse on families and communities. For more information on how to donate, go to lovinghands.net. This week, we're taking our exploration to the heart of PoE, the PoE Consortium. I've invited 2 guests on the show today to help us discuss who is the PoE Consortium, how can an organization advance the PoE technology, how can they help resolve misconceptions about PoE, how they are involved with industry stakeholders to drive innovation, and a bunch of other questions. So let's bring them on the show. Let's welcome to the show Tyler Andrews and Kim Johnson. Welcome to Let's Talk Kaylin, guys.
Hey, Chuck.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. It's always a pleasure having Tyler on. Welcome to be a first-time guest on the podcast for you.
Yes, thank you. It's an honor to be here after seeing how long you've been running this very long running show about cabling.
2.5 years. 2.5 years. I was just thinking about that the other day. So why don't you each take 30 seconds? Just tell us who you are and why should the audience listen to you guys about PoE. And Tyler, ladies first. So let's let
Oh,
Kim go first.
wonderful. Thank you. I'm Kim Johnson. I am the president of the PoE Consortium. We are a new organization, really kicked off this year. So January 1st was our kickoff for this organization, but I was involved in some of the founding elements of this group more than a year prior to that. I have been working in the marketing side of PoE technology since 2015. So really in the early days, I worked for a company called Igor for some time. I'm currently with MHT Technologies. We do PoE backbone technology, software, hardware to help enable, the PoE lighting that we all are very familiar with, and then everything that starts to go beyond just PoE lighting. So I have that at day by day. I'm Chief Marketing Officer at MHT Technologies. By night, I kind of have this additional role of president of the PoE Consortium.
So like many people in industry, you wear many hats.
Oh yes, definitely.
Tyler, you get 25 seconds.
Oh, thank you, Chuck. It's just an honor to be recognized. So Tyler Andrews, I'm the CEO of PoE Texas, and I'm the vice president of the PoE Consortium. I was one of the lucky few that Kim called early on and said, "Hey, Tyler, we're thinking about doing something exciting. Interested in being a part of it?" And I said, yes, with a nice H at the beginning of that, and been very excited to see the work the consortium is doing and participating in what it's been doing. At PoE Texas, we've done PoE since 2011. Power over Ethernet is what we know through and through. So we're big proponents of what the consortium does.
Yeah, I've been perusing your webpage over the last couple of days, and I'm truly excited with some of the stuff that you guys got going on. So let's start off with Kim, and Tyler, you can always follow up as well too. Can you give us an overview of the PoE Consortium? How did it come about, and why is there a need for such a consortium?
Thanks. So really the idea of some sort of group has been kicked around for many years by many different people. So I'm not going to take all the credit or allocate all the credit to any one person. But one of the things that happened was I was speaking to who's AK, who is now currently my fellow colleague CTO at an event. This was when I was at a different company. And even though we were direct competitors at the time, we were both talking about the challenges we were facing with this PoE technology. We understood the benefits and value. We were having a hard time reaching the audiences we thought we needed to reach to share this message. And so even though there was a lot of opportunity, we weren't seeing the market traction taking off in the same way that all of us were expecting at the time. And this was several years ago. So as that went on, it started off, our conversation started off as a joint white paper. And then it started talking about, well, wouldn't it be even stronger if we brought in more competitors, having a unified voice. And then as we brought in more people, that brought in more ideas. So as we were bringing in Tyler and some of the other early founding members of this organization, everyone contributed more ideas on how this could grow. We started to realize we probably actually needed a formal organization. And the concept is that even if we compete day to day, the reality is the potential of what PoE has to offer is so great that we might actually be better off working together to get the word out. And, if you look at each individual company, we could each do our own individual marketing efforts, and we still do. But if we combine our resources and our mental power, we could potentially go further together. So I think that's the theme, is the idea of further together. let the pie grow. And then, once we're a very mature and established organization and the industry's taken off in that way that we really expect, let us get ruthlessly competitive then. But at this point in time, we're just trying to get the word out. We're trying to unify to allow people to understand this technology, collaborate on training, and maybe even standardize a little bit of how we approach the terminology and things like that, which I know we'll get into more.
And there's always a synergy in that, right? I mean, look at what Bixby did, many, many, many years ago. There was everybody out there doing cabling their own kind of way, and we all kind of came together as an industry and said, you know what, there's only one way we should really be doing cabling. So there's a synergy in doing that, and I applaud you guys for doing it, because there are some people out there, some business owners, that they don't want to talk to competitors because they're afraid for whatever reason, and it's okay to be. Competition is healthy. It's absolutely healthy. But as an industry, when we all come together, you can shift an industry towards more advancement. Tyler, do you have anything to add on to what she said?
No, that's really what we're looking for. The ideas that have really resonated with all of our members, creating uniformity and standards for both design and installation, building trainings to deliver better projects for owners, and establish an industry body to promote the technology. That when we brought those up to people, everybody agreed that's really what we need.
Yeah, and the industry is ready to accept that, I think, especially with the way that we went from information communication technologies, structured cabling. That was the same pathway. So I got a two-parter for you, Mr. Tyler. The first one is, what are the key benefits of power over Ethernet? It's the reason I want to ask that one is because I had an electrician out here on the property on Friday because I'm wiring up the new studio. And I told him I want to run a cable up to the studio. I'm putting in some quads, some duplexes. And he goes, "You're not putting anything in for lights?" I said, "No, I'm doing PoE." And I might have been, I should have just been out in the middle of the field with a flashlight shining at the light in the eyes of a deer. He's like, "What? What?" He had no idea what I was even talking about. So can you talk about those benefits of doing PoE and couple that with what is the PoE Consortium doing to advance PoE as an option?
It's two great questions. So I always tell people about 5 big reasons to do power over Ethernet that most owners and people who live in the buildings are interested in. Number 1, sustainability. Our studies have shown power over Ethernet, whether you're doing lighting or any other project, is 60% less copper and 100% less steel conduit. So you reduce your carbon footprint and you get the added benefit and energy savings of a controlled lighting system. So you're making a big win on the sustainability. Owners love that. That's been their number 1. Hey, we really want to know about that. Number 2, affordability. Our studies had shown that power over Ethernet on average saves 30% over traditional AC equivalent projects, whether you're doing cameras, Wi-Fi access points, VoIP phones, or lighting and automation. So you're saving 30%. 3, interoperability. Because PoE runs on the same network infrastructure as the internet, we can integrate anything that lives on the network. You can ask anybody in the PoE Consortium. They're integrating things like cameras into their systems, a wide variety of sensors, and basically the IoT revolution lives on the internet. So PoE is that backbone. 4th is safety. PoE is touch-safe power, which is why you don't need to have a licensed electrician in most jurisdictions to install it. And interestingly enough, Chuck, it is the only universally accepted power standard worldwide. In any country you go to, you can use power over Ethernet. You can't do that with AC power.
No.
And then the big last one that I always tell people about is big data. Since PoE runs on the internet, it can do the same thing that Facebook and Google have done for this little thing that sits in your back pocket 90% of the day, but now it's for your entire building, all your spaces, all that data. If you look around, you can see how much data you're generating every day. With PoE, that big data is your data, and it's not getting just lost to the environment. So those are the 2 big things, and the big methods that the PoE Consortium is using to really promote those advantages and ideas is getting the word out there, going to big events. As a group, it's exciting. You can ask Kim about us going to a big developer event. We went as a group, we represented as a group, we presented as a group, and it adds more weight to that technology, not to hear one lone voice in the wilderness calling out saying, PoE is good, but seeing a group of professionals and competitors coming together and saying, yes, this really is the best choice. It really resonates for people to hear that and to hear different experiences and different advantages that different companies have and to see what that means. So that's really how events, trainings, industry standards, being out in the market and communicating through our website and through emails, it's really how we're getting the word out there.
And here's a follow-up question. And if you don't know, tell me you don't know. Because you deal with a lot of contractors, obviously, who are putting in PoE stuff. What percentage would you say is low voltage contractors? What percentage would you say is electrical contractors who do low voltage as well?
Ooh, that's a good question. And Kim, I'd love to make sure you give your answer. I would say at this stage, it could be about 70% low voltage contractors and 30% electrical contractors. But I think what we're seeing from the rumblings in the market and interest, that may be shifting back toward electrical contractors. Kim,
Yeah.
I'd love to get your feedback on that.
Yeah, it's varied enough that it's hard to say. I don't even know if I want to put exact percentages, but I have noticed a trend in electrical engineering firms starting to add low voltage specialties, or at least starting to add that 1 or 2 person groups that will start to form the foundation of their future low voltage arm, or getting more involved in projects. Because I think there's certainly, potentially a fear from the electrical, engineering side or installer side that this is going to replace them, when in fact it doesn't necessarily have to. It could be something that they add on, a specialty they could get involved with. But low voltage contractors do have an advantage because of the history and knowledge of low voltage that they already have from all of their experience. So it'll be interesting to see how it develops. I think, as you noticed, the range on the electrical side is huge, from people who have maybe never heard of anyone installing PoE before, which we're trying to change, all the way to companies that are starting to add or expand their low voltage divisions so that they don't lose out on those business opportunities.
Yeah, there's already a plethora of electrical contractors who do both low voltage and electrical. And maybe this should be a wake-up call for those who only do electricity, that they might want to consider doing this, because let's be honest, it's easier work than putting a pipe and pulling electrical cabling, right? So
And
maybe it might be a
safer
wake-up call.
and a
Yeah,
little
it is.
cleaner.
Oh yeah, and saves the customer money, and that's just a win-win-win all the way around, right? So let's follow it up with you, Kim. What are some of the biggest misconceptions or maybe misunderstandings about PoE, and how is the consortium helping to get rid of those?
There are unfortunately several myths out there, and I'm not going to be totally comprehensive. We certainly hear that sometimes the pushback our members get with PoE installations is that it seems to be a new technology and therefore risky. A fear of going with a vendor and then not sure, what if that vendor has supply chain issues. And what we're trying to do as a group is essentially come together and say, look at all the options you have. This is a growing organization. You don't have to fear that this is such a new technology that no one knows how to do it. There's actually a lot of expertise out there. So we're trying to de-risk this concept. We don't think it's risky anyways, right? There's technical safety benefits to PoE, in addition to the fact that power over Ethernet technology used in buildings in this way, such as for lighting, has been implemented for, at this point, Tyler, what do you think the oldest PoE lighting installation is? I mean, we're talking more than a decade, probably, since some of the initial ones. And PoE itself, this Ethernet cable, has been around longer than that, and it's been standardized. And you've got this whole infrastructure of low voltage installers and expertise and the backbone and the manufacturers out there. So that's the message we're trying to get out to people who look at this because they haven't seen it or they haven't heard of it. They assume it's risky or assume it's new. So we're trying to overcome that and show that we're an established technology that can support large scale smart building project implementations.
Right.
There's also some concerns about cost. And what we're finding, I think, at least anecdotally amongst members, is that a lot of times this comes from not comparing apples to apples. You know, you might compare the, line voltage side of a project to the low voltage side, but are you actually comparing functionally, you know, when you're submitting these quotes, are you comparing apples to apples? Is it truly all the lighting? You know, look what else PoE is maybe covering. Maybe the shades are included in it. Maybe there's all these sensors and it can add to what can be perceived to be a more expensive project. But the reality is, if you're actually trying to compare appropriately, they're going to come in typically very similar, if not sometimes cheaper, because as Tyler mentioned, you know, you're reducing a lot of the raw materials, which is a huge issue as today the cost of these products are often they've remained high, even if they're off their peak, right, of steel, of copper, they're still very high, the expenses there for traditional builds. So we're trying to tackle that ROI, talking about the value, putting hard numbers behind it. As an organization, we're trying to prove that this is not a risky technology and that it's been around for a while and it's scalable. You can put it in a 33-story building in New Jersey and be just fine, for example.
Well, you know, one of the
And Chuck,
premier, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to add to it. The other thing that Kim hadn't mentioned, but I see it occasionally, is people think PoE is only something in the techie IT realm that you or I would never hope to be able to understand. And we're hoping to really break that misconception, the idea that you have to somehow convince your IT technology team to implement this to get that advantage. We like to explain to people, nope, just put it on its own network. It becomes an operational technology network, and it doesn't even have to interfere with the IT world. It can if you'd like, but it doesn't have to. So we want to try and bring down that misconception that you have to be some magical computer tech whiz to make these lights work. They work like a traditional lighting system. They just happen to run on a network cable and be a hell of a lot smarter.
Right. And one of the premier installations well, Kim didn't mention it, but she was talking about, some PoE installs out there being a decade old. Maybe you guys might be able to answer that. You know, one of the premier installations is the Sinclair Hotel, right? How long ago was that built? Do you guys know off the top of your heads?
Was it designed in 2016, Tyler?
Yeah, it was designed in 2016.
It's been in operation.
It opened just as the pandemic hit. It opened to the public.
Right. And it hasn't burnt down yet. And that's a building with lots of PoE in it. I mean, just
a lot of PoE.
A lot of PoE. Yeah.
And it's running 24/7 as a hotel. And
yes.
I know the Sinclair team and some others have done some analysis, and it's actually operating with 33%, about 30% lower monthly energy bills than it was as an office with traditional line voltage lighting and technology. So, the digital backbone there has certainly pushed the industry forward as well, because it shows it's possible and that the value is beyond, just one part of the line items on your balance sheet.
Right. Two of the biggest components or challenges I see that you guys are going to have are going to be the first one, probably the biggest one, standardization, and then also innovation. Innovation is kind of easy because the customer kind of drives that and we kind of have to follow them. But standardization, getting everybody all on the same page. So how is the PoE Consortium taking the industry stakeholders, like manufacturers, integrators and stuff like that, to help drive both that innovation and that standardization?
That's a great question, Chuck. Because the PoE Consortium is made up of manufacturers, integrators, and end users, we're there to drive innovation and standardization. So that's one of the main tenets of it. We're a very open organization, and I think that's really important in terms of who we allow into memberships. It's not an exclusive club of just a few people, and we say no to everybody else. The membership, I think, Kim, we're up to 30 plus members right now, and everybody from cable manufacturers to device manufacturers to lighting manufacturers and systems to installers to designers. It's a big pool, and so we're inviting people to come in and participate. So as long as you're willing to support PoE as a technology, you're welcome to join the consortium and help drive the future of innovation and standardization for the next 20 years.
That sounds like a great opportunity. Where would if somebody wants to join that PoE consortium, where would they go?
Just right on our website, poeconsortium.com. We have a membership side, a tab on our webpage. It's a simple application form, and that we try to make it accessible. So as Tyler said, we're trying to be inclusive, not exclusive. We think there's value in having everyone from hardware manufacturers to installers and integrators. And we do have multiple levels, so you can join at a level that really pushes the mission forward, which of course, we always encourage patron and member level applications, but also to be a part of the conversation, we have more accessible observer level memberships as well.
Gotcha. So remember, I was telling you about that electrician I had here on the property to put in the electricity for my new studio, and he, like I said, he was totally lost. So what kind of resources is the PoE Consortium putting out there to help, electricians or maybe engineers or designers to help implement PoE effectively?
I'll kick it off because I think Tyler will have quite a bit to add here as well. He's actually one of the chairs of our training committee. So as an organization, we knew this was really, from the beginning, we knew we wanted a committee focused on creating trainings that would be broadly applicable. So it's not for just one particular manufacturer about just their system. This is about a broader understanding of the concepts down to actual technical understanding of how there are different ways of installing or managing the systems. So the training committee has a training that will be live at Bixie Fall, for example. So they're starting to take the training that they've been developing, putting it in front of people with the potential for some online learnings to come next. So I'd love to actually have Tyler, I specifically would like to have Tyler add more because he's really been key in helping make this happen.
Yes, Chuck, one of our key activities is to develop an online training accreditation program for electricians and low voltage installers. And it won't even be exclusive to low voltage installers and electricians. It would include salespeople, designers, architects, owners, anyone who wants to understand what PoE in terms of lighting and automation does. So we're working aggressively on it. We've got a team of 20 different individuals working every month to try and put together a training program. We're planning on our first training program to go live through our website in Q4. So stay tuned, be ready for it. And we're going to be doing that. And as well, we're really working hard in an outreach to the installers and the professionals who are doing this, hopefully your customer or your audience, Chuck, to help better educate each other and build that community. So in many ways, this is like a call out to your audience. Are you ready to come help at the training committee? Make these trainings better, make it more accurate and true to life so that as an industry, we'll all benefit.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm really been monitoring you guys pretty heavily, is because, that's one of my weak areas. And I'm the type of person, if I know that I have a weakness in a certain area, I'm going to come at it full force and learn about it. That's one of the reasons why I've had you on the show several times. That's why I sought you out at the Nika Bixie Summit, because and you even got me to stick my finger in the light bulb outlet this time. You didn't do it. You couldn't do it in the fall conference. So I know that it's safe, and I think training is going to certainly help break down those walls of the electrical contractors who are kind of shying away from it, right? So interoperability. Let's cover that, right? There's all different kinds of different types of devices and different types of parameters that people got to put the cabling in store. How is the consortium addressing that?
I'll kick off this question as well briefly, because that is another committee that we have too. A challenge when we formed and we've had discussions with our members, challenges have been raised about trainings, specifically the hands-on installation that we just covered, and really understanding how to put it into the market and into facilities. But then also a conversation around trying to standardize to some degree. Right, each company is going to have its unique offerings. There are going to be things that differ between MHT Technologies and PoE Texas versus Genesis Lighting versus Molex and all of that. Right, there will always be differences, but we have identified some opportunities to standardize. We can standardize some of our language. We can standardize the symbols we use on designs so that we're referencing the same things with the designs, making the language interoperable first so that we can really talk and speak the same language. And then also we've been on the longer term roadmap. This is a bigger lift. And when it's a call out to people to help, certainly some conversation around trying to create an interoperable API so that we have the same developer language, at least for integrations as well. So I saw a little aha moment there. What were you thinking?
Yeah, that's smart about going after the language first. That's absolutely brilliant because, how do you turn a huge ship, right? It doesn't just change direction overnight. It's those small little incremental steps. So getting everybody on the same page language-wise is, I think, a good solid foundation for because they had the next conversation. Because once you got everybody using the same, like you said, the same symbols on your prints and using the same acronyms, our industry loves acronyms, right? And having all this, then you can easily start migrating into other facets of the PoE world that will bring everybody on board. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Taylor?
I do. There's one thing a decision we made early on about a standardization that we've all agreed to at the PoE Consortium. We're using IEEE 802.3 PoE, and that's a baseline for everybody. So when we say standardization, the communication transport protocol, the wiring, the power, that's already standardized. So just by forming the PoE Consortium, we've got more than half of the load behind us compared to a lot of the lighting and lighting controls industry out there today. We're already speaking the same language. We're already, instead of us trying to figure out how to even like talk to each other in terms of physically can we communicate, we're down to we're already covered a huge part of that. So now we're just saying, okay, how do I say the right words in the right way between different manufacturers? So I want to make sure we're recognizing the fact that we chose Power over Ethernet as the transport layer physically and architecturally. It's meant that we're much further along than the industry for lighting and automation has ever been before, just with the organization of the consortium. And now we just have that last 10 to 20%. And it may feel like a big 10 to 20%, but man, there's just so much water already passed under that bridge. We've done so much in terms of standardization because Power over Ethernet and Ethernet communication has been around for 20, 30 years. And there's a lot of documented protocols, how you do things, how to be successful. It's a huge win for the PoE Consortium just right out of the gate.
Are you going to roll in because you're using the Ethernet standards, are you going to roll in the ANSI cabling standards as part of that process too?
I don't think we need to remake the cabling standards in terms of there's nothing in that we're doing that would void or interrupt what ANSI is doing for cabling, and we're not going to try and get into the business of telling ANSI how to do cabling. They know it much better than we do. Just like we're not going to tell ETL or we're not going to tell UL how to do their testing. We're not going to try and tell IEEE how to do the communication standards. that's all. We're actually building on the shoulders of huge giants, and there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. So all of that will still be there.
Well, you can certainly tie it in. You could certainly say, you know, for wiring practices, refer to, you know, the ANSI 568.0 standards or whatever to help kind of round that out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And then the simple answer is yes. Use the best practices you would use for your networking and data
Right.
cabling right out of the gate. So nothing like in RCDD, we'll still have a huge advantage over, you know, a trunk slamming guy who just thinks he can pull a network cable. All of that knowledge will only add to your ability to participate in this.
It's funny you mentioned trunk slammers. I just did a series on trunk slammers not too long ago. So you guys have your plate full because you're kind of trying to write all these standards and this training practices and trying to bring all these people together. Are you putting any thought into the future of PoE? What kind of goals do you guys have? You have to have like a 5-year goal, a 10-year goal, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're ambitious. We know we have, but we also know we have some distance to go. I'm not going to say a long ways because, like Tyler indicated, a lot of times you forget how far you've come. You know how far we've come. You know, we've come through all the a lot of early R&D development, highs, lows, and we're at a point of probably the most stability we've ever seen in this industry, the most potential for growth, and the most activity. So our members are becoming very active. I personally, and I've advocated, you know, as president of the PoE Consortium, I would like us to look 5, maybe it's more like 10 years out, where PoE is considered the default, or it is considered, if you're not doing PoE, you're not putting in the best practice for your facility. So I think that is possible. I think it's possible, at least in certain markets where we're really developing and activating now. And ultimately, I'd like to see this become an international organization. We've got that perk of building on international standards already. So we already have a way of translating this into international markets. We're focused on the North American market this year. We do have some international members, but we have not put a concerted effort behind it. So I would say that that's where we're really looking to grow as an organization and then also as an industry from there. So Tyler, do you want to add anything else to that vision?
Well, before you answer that, Taylor,
yes.
let me. Why do I call you Taylor again? Tyler, Chuck, come on, get the name straight. Let me ask one thing because you mentioned international, right? So in the U.S. we're 50 hertz, or is it we're 50? Yeah, we're 50 hertz, and in Europe they're 60 hertz. Is there a difference between PoE U.S., PoE Europe, PoE Far East?
No, it's the same PoE. You'll find the same PoE in Tokyo as in Tulsa, in Auckland and Austin. It is exactly the same, and it all works together. So no hertz. That it was funny. We're working on a project in the Middle East, and they kept asking us, "But what is it? Is it 60 hertz? Is it 50 hertz?" And I kept telling them, "It's not. It's neither." It is PoE. And it took a little while for them to finally wrap their head around the idea that the standard, the idea of the standards and all the power conflicts and transformers and everything just goes away. And so it is the same everywhere in the world. And I would probably propose we're probably closer to getting Mars than anybody else in the industry.
So I appreciate both of you coming on. Is there any final thoughts that either you would like to share on the PoE world? We'll start off with you, Kim.
I think this is an exciting opportunity for a lot of people. I think it is a key player in the future of a sustainable, smart building. So if you're excited by what we've talked about today, or if you have opinions on what we've talked about today, what better way to make your voice heard than by joining the PoE Consortium, which you can find us at poeconsortium.com. You can also obviously connect with Tyler and I, you know, maybe LinkedIn, something like that, with any questions. And, you know, we're there's energy behind this, and we're excited about what the future holds. I'm excited about what the future holds and what we've accomplished already as an all-volunteer organization.
You're next, Tyler.
I echo what Kim is saying. Get involved. This is the time to really make a difference. You know, when you look at your career and you think about where you're going in life, there are very few times when you can choose as an individual to participate in something that will have such a big market difference. There are very few times where you could stand up and make a choice in your career to support something that will have such a big run and have so much power behind it, because PoE's been around for 20 years. PoE is not going away. Whether it's tomorrow or the next day, it is going to be where the future will be in one form or fashion. So stand up, take advantage of the opportunity. We're making a call out to each one of you out there who's watching this, trying to decide whether to get involved. Do it. Try it out. Join a meeting, participate, see what we're doing, and really make your mark in the industry by participating now, because we're open and we can accept membership now. Who knows, in 20 years or 5 years or 2 years, we may have so many voices already supporting it that you won't make as big a difference. It'll always make a difference, but make a difference today. Don't hesitate to join today and get involved.
How often can you be on the ground floor anymore? So that's what we would say.
Yes, exactly. I love that. Ground floor. This is an exciting opportunity to get in the ground floor to make a difference in an industry. If you're not doing PoE, you should. And this is such a great opportunity that yours truly has already joined as well. I joined as an observer because, remember, my show's agnostic. I want to be a part of it, but I don't want to be promoting one over the other. So I've already joined it. So if I'm joined it, you should join it as well. Till next time, knowledge is power.
That's it for this episode of today's podcast. We hope you were able to learn something. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. Also, leave a rating so we can help even more people learn about telecommunications. Until next time, be safe.